Welcome back. This is episode 3 where we're going to get into polishing and bluing the barrel and the pump tube, and then maybe get into stripping the paint off the receiver halves and getting that down to a nice bare metal and clean it up a little bit. And see if I still got some gloss black Rust-Oleum. Have enough of that left in a spray can to repaint the receiver halves. They're beat up pretty bad. Well, they're all blotchy and they got tape residue on it, and all that's got to come off. But we'll start with polishing the pump tube and barrel first. So let's hit it. Okay, now I got all my emery papers and stuff over here. Wet or dry, preferably. Emery or silicone carbide, I think they call it. And this is 400. So let's see if we can get some of this bluing and rust flake and pitting and stuff off of these two parts here. And I cut each sheet about like that shape, in other words, into 3 pieces, and then fold it over and use it like that. And I'm wearing my apron this time and gloves to keep all this fine metal filings off me. It soaks in your skin and the grooves in your fingers and all that, to where you can't wipe it off. You have to wash it off. So wear some gloves and keep it off me to start with. Of course, your hands sweat inside these things, which is good. It'll get rid of any warts you might have and cut down and callous skin and just dry skin in general, which is what the epidermis is. And I'm laying the barrel flat on the table to keep from warping by going like this, which might not be a good thing. I think I might have some 220 there, but that might not be fine enough. Get a piece of paper here. Okay, that flaky stuff is starting to come off pretty good. I'm just going to show you guys basically how to start the polishing process. 400, 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1500, 2000, and 2500 grit. One after the other. Because one will take out the lower numbers will take out all the pits and flaky, rusty bluing stuck to it that the chemical wouldn't take off, which will eventually look like a mirror. I don't know if you can, that'll show you real close. But there's a lot of real fine pitting in there with bluing and rust in it. And you look this way, like you can see real fine micro grooves like a record. In other words, they took too much metal off, tried to machine it down to final tolerance instead of take it off, say, 1/1000th at low speeds where it would take a long time, but it would get a nice smooth finish. It wouldn't take the time to do that. So I'm fixing it. fine emery cloth. I don't know how fine is.
Right now, when they go to the bathroom, that's all you're looking to tell you to me.
It's all in Spanish. Who is the dummy that puts everything in Spanish in America? Make them learn our language. Can't figure that out. This is emery cloth, by the way, here. It's actually a fine woven cloth, like emery and other sanding media used to be, especially when you're working on metal. This barrel is pretty rough. If it's just flaky rust and everything, that's okay, but this stuff was ingrained into the metal pretty bad. So it's going to take a little extra work to smooth it down. Okay, well anyway, there's with fine emery paper. I'm getting some of this flaky pitting and stuff off there down about here so far. The rest of that shadow will eventually come out with successive sandings, with going from fine emery cloth through 400 to 2500, and that'll shine real nice and bring all that out. So rather than boring with a ton of film, I'll go ahead and get these done, and then when they're done, I'll show you the before and after. Okay, here's what the barrel and pump tube look like after all the stripping, the bluing, and the rust, and the green Scotch-Brite pad there, and then a larger fine emery cloth, and then the finer 400 grit emery paper. Looking pretty good already. So I'll continue on till I reach 2500, and then it'll be something to see. Okay, I didn't have any 2500 grit emery paper left, and the other stuff I ordered, that one batch of 2500 won't be here till the middle of next week, and I could have this thing blued and cured by then. But here's 2000 grit. My hands hurt. So I've been sanding on these things since last Friday with Birchwood Casey bluing and rust remover, and then Scotch-Brite pad right there, and then I fell on the floor, but got a whole bag full of emery paper there. I just don't have any 2500 left. These packs here only give you maybe 2 sheets of each one, and 1500 and 2500 go fast for some reason. But anyway, look at that mirror shine on the metal. Looks a whole lot better than it did. Trying to find angles where I can show you what I can see here. Looking real nice. Now I gotta dig up everything. Let's use citrus strip to get the old paint off of these. Try to give you a closer look at that. got some tape residue on it on that side. And I'm in here, I'll show you the bag of new parts I ordered from Mike Baker. I also got a couple of, I don't know if he rebuilds them or they're new old stock, the piston and seal assembly for the variant 1 and variant 2. Pretty sure even variant 3 uses the original piston and seal configuration, which is pressed together. You'll see that in a minute. So this will be the part we'll start on next. And as I said, here are the parts that just came in like 2 days ago. The front sight, the front part of the valve, and 2 of the piston, seal, and oil ring assemblies, and a little bag of screws I need to, especially to hold the valve in place through the side of the right side of the receiver. Let's try that from a different angle here. Set it on the desk. See if I can show you just how mirrory that is. Better angle here. Oh yay. Okay, I got a bunch of Q-tips and the 2 receiver halves here I got to clean out inside. The sort of rusty colored oil and grease and funk and everything, I got to get that out of there. Make sure this thing's cleaned up real nice so I can use a paint stripper like on the outside of the receivers, but obviously the trigger guard parts like right here and all this right there, and then the back down in there where the stock goes in. So I want to get that all nice and neatly cleaned. Poured a little 70% rubbing alcohol in there. Had a whole, that's only got 2 Q-tips left. The ones I used dipped in the rubbing alcohol and on one end dry on the other. And that's how dirty they are after cleaning the left side receiver half. Back in there, the grease had mixed with some rust off of something and got in there, and you can see now why I got to use Q-tips with the rubbing alcohol to get in there. Now that's the upper BB magazine there. See, here's a square opening right there where it goes into the magazine there and the bolt and everything. The barrel rests on these round little saddles here. You get one for the barrel and then the pump tube, bigger pump tube right there, which only comes into here. It works with the valve and all that crap that's in the pump tube, but anyway. Got that cleaned out inside because that upper BB magazine there, I have to put stripper in there too so I can repaint it. So I gotta spritz that with paint and then turn it over and paint the outside, which will be, I'll use stripper on there and get that completely down to bare die cast metal, including both sides of the trigger guard, which will be exposed, of course. Now I got to clean this side, and I'll show you that when it's done. It's not, I already showed you how to get in the nooks and crannies and junk like that with the Q-tips and rubbing alcohol. So I get the oil and grease off. And the right receiver half all cleaned up inside. You see little hints of all the rusty grease residue that was over there. Had to clean all that up. One of the trigger sears there, I just leave that in place because of that push-on paddle nut and spring there. That's so far up in there I don't really need to move that. I can just cover some things briefly while I repaint that in there. And of course there's the spots where the barrel and the pump tubes sit, those curved saddles. That saddle right there is for the bolt that goes, sticks through that little hole down there. I gotta wipe down the outside with rubbing alcohol. You can use cleaner degreaser, but rubbing alcohol is fine. Okay, here's after I use some paper towel and Q-tips to get down the bolt holes and recesses and wipe it down on the outside and all that sort of thing, especially, oh, you can see down in there, but I had to use 3 or 4 Q-tips to get down there and clean all that out. Looks like the paint came off pretty good too down in there. I'm getting all these little bolt recesses all cleaned out as best I might. Gotta get in there and get the grease off everything or the paint won't stick. And I'm not leaving it up to the stripper to get that off. So got that cleaned up and ready to strip. Alrighty, we're gonna use some citrus stripping gel. Not as toxic as the other stuff. And I hope it doesn't burn through the bottom of that. We've got a junior baby food jar I use over there for soaking small parts to clean them down to metal, polish them and glue them and all that stuff. I didn't want to mess that jar up with this junk. I play as hell trying to get it clean again. So here we go. Hard to get this darn stuff on there thick enough where it doesn't dry before it takes the paint off is what bugs me about strippers. Can't be like human strippers. Human strippers is so much easier. And this brush happens to fit the bolt slot down in here real nice. So that should work out nicely. You gotta glop this stuff on there. That's the part I think maybe I'm having trouble getting used to. Doesn't seem right to eat through paper, and we don't get newspaper anymore since, as Ian said in Ghostbusters, print is dead. Unless you're buying books about the history of something and, you know, with pictures and all that stuff, then that can be an invaluable resource, of course. And I'm not going to bother doing the BB magazine in here. I got that cleaned up with rubbing alcohol, so I'll just spritz that later. Now, I don't know how well it's going to take this kind of paint off. I use Rust-Oleum now, but what this paint is, I'm not real sure. I never was. So we'll do the best we can. Can't do any better than that. Oh, and I doubled up the cup just in case. He's through the first one, you'll still have a little bit of time before he's through the second one. It's not molecular acid, but it can surprise you. So, but it smells nice. It smells like, kind of like orange. Safer paint and varnish stripping, so I'll be the judge on that. Stuff must have run off for it. Can't really sand this paint off here. That paint is pretty darn tough. I don't know if it's like an alkyd enamel. Not a 2-pro, but alkyd enamel for back in those days. Early 70s would have been a possibility. So that would be something to look up. And for the earlier ones before 73, which this is, like my variant 1, it's not exactly black paint. It's like black paint with a little bit of a pewter color in there. Gives it a charcoal grayish, bluey, silvery kind of tone. And some of those TV trays they sold at Walmart, like the one with the top that looks like wood. Well, that kind of paint they used on that was about the same color used on the first variant Crosmans, like the 760. So I don't know. I'm just not seeing a chemical reaction there yet. Put that one down. Try to make sure I've got this stuff down in these screw holes too. Stuff's got to go everywhere. Okay. Set that over there for a minute. I know I forgot something I didn't get out. The third cup to put water in to clean the brush, and I use these longer 1-inch trim brushes that we get at Walmart. I got a couple of these. These things are great for dusting off your desk and computer, keyboard, and junk like that too. I only took the stuff down to about there so it doesn't get up in here and ruin it. I needed a decent brush, especially for using citrus strip. I use that on some of the more modern wood air rifle stocks that have the laser cut check ring and everything, and you have to, that's the only way I can get down the check ring without damaging it. And I still have to use my check ring tools to go around the edges and stuff like that and clean up the check ring and all, so that it can it'll look nice and sharp when it's refinished. Half-gallon vodka jug I keep my rinse water in for when I'm bluing or stripping and junk like that. Speed tip of the week. Too much. Get that thing clean before the plastic bristles start to dissolve. Make sure I don't make a mess. And doesn't look like it's taking that thing off to me. Trying to bend that around a little bit to clean. Now it's interesting, the water turns sort of milky. Keep the little kids away, they'll think it's watered down milk or skim milk or something. Let that soak in the water. That'll at least get that stuff to come out of the brush. Contains no methyl chloride, non-caustic and safe for indoor use. And it's biodegradable. Okay, used to remove multiple layers of latex and oil-based paint, varnish, lacquer, enamel, polyurethane, shellac, acrylics, and epoxy from wood, metal, and masonry surfaces. Hopefully after 30 minutes. Forgot to check the time when I started brushing it on. Yeah, it's 1:27. I'll call it at 1:25. So we'll see what happens. Okay, 1:25. I put it on. It's now 10 after 2, and it's finally getting loose enough to where I can scrape the stuff. I started on this one. I'm just trying to move them around a little bit. You can see it coming off. I couldn't find a putty knife, but I found a piece of an old vacuum cleaner with a kind of little point on it there that'll work. But anyway, that's what you got to do to get this stuff off. It works, but it's messy. swear that stuff just gets all over everything and I can't pick it up. Trying to be neat about it, but I swear I got no way to hold the dumb thing down to keep it from sliding around on me. But anyway, that's how you do it. I'll go ahead and clean this up and then we'll go from there. Once you got it down to looking like that, take some mineral spirits and cut a paper towel into like 4 strips. Make a pad. And then you can get some more of this crud neutralized and out of the little details and junk like that. I think the hardest part is getting it out of that raised die-cast lettering real nice. Get it to where it looks good. Do it horizontally, up and down, sideways and around. Any which way you can to scrub into that lettering and get that look about like that. That's probably about as good as you're going to get. Okay, fold it over since you got soaked with mineral spirits, and my quart's just about empty. Breech opening right there. I'm trying to get in there as good as I can. I got other those green Scotch-Brite pads that I haven't messed up with this stuff. They're scrubbing the stripper to try to get the paint off. And you can see there's a lot of like scratches and dings and whatnot in the metal. That's die-cast zinc, probably a zinc alloy. And get this stuff off your gloves. That gets redeposited on the metal. From your, comes off your gloves back on the metal again. You got to clean it again. More lettering up in here. Gotta get into. Proper restorations, especially on earlier air rifles that have painted parts and everything, you gotta use stripper to get the paint out of the details, and not like I'm showing you now. And then mineral spirits will help get the scroungy, crumbly, sticky, greasy, grimy gopher guts off. Get that out of these little saddles here where the barrels go. I've had some drip through a hole right there. Okay. Let's just clean that off. Need a clean place to set that down. And get these. I buy at least 2 packs of these paper shock towels. I've even bought the big box before. There's like 1,700 of them in there or something. And use those. just pull what you want out of the box. It's made that way. Buy at least two rolls, maybe a 4-pack, and give 2 to the wife. She'll love these things for cleaning. Okay. Oh, I can't get that square. Come on. That's gotta be square. Okay, anyway. Then you can see a lot of scratches and stuff up there that was under that paint. And I'm going to have to go over there and get some Q-tips to get any screw holes and everything, make sure I get that all clean. That's the only thing I got that'll get down in there. And once I get these all nice and clean and dried down, I'll be right back. Okay, here's what they look like all cleaned up. I have to take another some other dry Scotch-Brite pads and try to buff the scratches and dings and whatnot out of the metal. It's looking pretty good. And now I have to start buffing the middle. Try to get it cleaned up. I don't know how easy or hard it's going to be. Kind of depends on the individual pieces. Just gotta. Okay, just did it right there so you can see the difference between over here and right there. Can't paint it too thick either. I'm sticking a witch because the serial number right there, I don't know why they got a serial number on that part. Because that's a 73, they didn't get serial numbers until after July 75, so I don't know. I got it cleaned, and I used the Scotch-Brite pad to go over it and kind of shine it up a little bit anyway. Seems like there's some kind of plating over the metal. I don't know. But anyhow, I then wiped it down with rubbing alcohol and used a lot of Q-tips getting in these holes and everything to clean that out. Pretty good. Lettering's nice and crisp, so that'll turn out well. It'll look a lot better when it's painted. A lot of this stuff will be covered up. And there is the serial number, all nice and sharp. You can actually feel it. But anywho, be ready to start to paint these and let them hang up there to dry. And blew the pump tube and barrel. Those have to be soaked with oil and left to cure for 5 to 7 days. So that's it for this installment. Next time, like I said, we start painting and bluing and order a seal kit with the extra little parts that you typically replace. And it'll be about a week, and then we can finally start putting it back together. So keep your gun well and your powder dry. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll see you again.